Hi guys, welcome to session 76 of Java Full Stack Made Easy. In this session, we will be talking about the bean wiring, auto wiring, and the scope of the bean. So in the previous session also I have told you connecting two beans means bean wiring. So in this case, we will be talking about how can we connect the beans, how do we perform the bean wiring when we have multiple uh, beans being created by the container itself. So far we have configured the list, we have configured the array and everything inside our models that we have created. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is that I will have this beans. So what we will do is, obviously we can have this uh, list and arrays being defined into our models. What I will do is I'll keep it simple so that it will be easier for you to understand the things. Fine, so I'll go to the library and remove this book as a list, and I'll simply call it as just one single private book. This is only to make it simple and straightforward. Okay, I can definitely have the list, I can have the collections, I can have the arrays being defined, anything can be there. Okay, but just to keep things simple I'm doing this, else I can configure anything that is being created. Okay, so let's configure these two accordingly. So I have the ISB and the book. I think that's more than enough for me. And I'll have a constructor using field and also the getter setters. Okay, so constructor using field, getter setters generated. Now let's generate a constructor using field, and the lastly generate the toString method. So now our book class looks like the first book class that we have created when we started Spring. Similarly for the library also, I'll keep it simple. My library will have the name and it'll just have the book. Okay, so that's it. Let's generate the getter setters for this, and also constructor using field and the default constructor. I'll just set a control space and get a default constructor, and let's now get the constructor using field. Lastly, a toString method. All right, all done now. Let's now go to the configuration and configure it accordingly. So let us first remove off all the beans that we have created. This volume is no more valid property now for this particular bean. No array. So this is the simplest book bean that we can have. That's fine. And we had a library created, right? Yeah. So here is the library being created, and the library can simply refer to the book now. Okay, so this is what we used to do before, where we have already seen this, right? Book, which is nothing but the wiring of bean. I have the simple case now. Bean I have wired. So let me first save it. Let's save everything, and let me give you this particular piece of code and call this as just the bean wiring. I think in the previous sessions also I've given you the same. Let's create another repo for this, which is gonna be day 76 demo 1 manual wiring. So I've wired the bean, that means I've connected two beans, but I have done it manually. And let's have a library. This is my book class, library class, and lastly the service, and also the XML based configuration, which is spring.xml. Okay, now comes the main concept of performing auto wiring, where we want Spring container to perform wiring for us. So let's go to the XML. Here we have the beans created, and now we don't want to specify that we are referring to this. Now what we want to do is we want Spring container, because Spring container is creating both the beans, right? So since both the beans are known to the Spring container, we want the Spring container to perform the wiring for us. And what are the type of wiring available to us? First of all, let us discuss that. Okay, when we talk about the auto wiring, so what I will do now is that I will just remove this property name, book, refer and everything from here. Okay, so let's talk about things like what? Things like auto wiring. So by default, auto wiring is set to false, means auto wire is default. So let's remove this property now. While creating this library bean, what we can do is we can say auto wire. So if I say auto wire default, it means there is no auto wiring. When I save this and run this piece of code, since that bean, I'm not able to get the book, although book is created here, but I will get the book as null because auto wiring is not happening here. So the default auto wiring is no auto wire. Now, what is the next type of auto wiring? The next type of auto wiring that I'm going to perform is going to be the auto wire by type. So here we will write those type of auto wiring. So auto wire, and the auto wire default, suppose if it is default, which is equal to no wiring. Okay, there will be no auto wiring, in fact, not wiring. Auto wire by default is manual wiring. We have to perform manual wiring there. So that's what we have specified here. For this bean library, we are saying default. Now we will say by type. There is another type of auto wiring, that is by type, auto wire by type. Now let's save it and let's run this and get the bean wired first, and after that we will discuss what exactly is auto wire by type. Now you can see that the bean is injected. The book bean is injected. Auto wire by type, what it does, since there are two beans in the container now, let us understand that with a simple diagram. Now there is this Spring container. Okay, Spring container is creating two beans for us. One is the library bean, one is the book bean. Let's write those and understand it. One is this library bean and one is this book bean. So what we are saying, the Spring container is you auto wire the bean based on the type. So while creating this library bean, our Spring container knows that library bean depends on the book bean. So it is going to search for the book bean inside the constructor and find that, okay, I find the type of bean book bean and I'm gonna inject that bean here. So that is what auto wire by type is all about. So auto wire by type injects the bean, and also there are certain set of rules that has to be followed. One rule is that requires a single matching bean, else it is going to throw a no unique bean exception. Because what happens if I have two beans? There is a possibility of having two beans of the same type, right? There can be a book and book like this. So let's create that and show, let me create that and show you that. So in this case I'm performing auto wiring, and auto wire by type works very well. Let's have the auto wiring by type, like book 2 is also there, and let's change the ISBN to 55 and change the book name to, let's call it as my life. So now our Spring container will be confused when we are performing a auto wire by type. Why is Spring container confused? Because we have two books, right? Two beans of the same type will be there. So when we get this, at that time the Spring container does not automatically decide which bean has to be wired. So it says that uh, there is no unique qualifying bean, expected one, found two, right? You can see that it is throwing us a uh, unsatisfied, obviously, dependency error, creating the bean with the library. Okay, so what is that? No qualifying bean of type book available, expected single matching bean, but found two beans. Okay, so since there are two beans being found, so it is throwing us the exception. Okay, no unique bean exception will be thrown. So now that we are perform auto wire by type will fail in this case. Auto wire by type, what it does, auto wire by type can be used, and this auto wire by type injects the bean based on the type of the bean. And also this auto wire by type, what it does, it requires single matching bean. That's the limitation of this auto wire by type. Now what we will do is in the auto wire by type, let us check. Let's go to this book bean and see whether it is injecting a constructor. This is a constructor, right? System.out.println constructor, and we have the setter as well. So beans can be initialized either by using a constructor or by using a setter. So here we will see whether a setter is being injected or the constructor is being injected. So that nature also we have to see. When I run this, obviously there are two qualifying beans, so it will not work now. So one of the bean I have to comment it out. So I'll comment out one of the bean out of these two. Now that I have commented out one bean, so there is one qualifying bean. When I run this, let's see now what is the problem. So XML line 30 XML document class path. There's some problem at line 30. What is that? This is fine. This is just a comment. Let's save it. Okay, let's see what is this exception. It is related to Spring framework, bean factory, XML bean definition store, document class path resource is invalid. So there is some invalid code thing written here. Beans is fine. Auto wiring, this is also okay. Let's just remove this and see. Let's save it now. Yeah, so you can now see that uh, I'm able to inject a bean, and also you can notice a setter is being injected. So when we say auto wire by type, it is actually injecting a setter. Let's now try and do something like this. So let me just, yeah, let's just have this by type being created. Let's remove this and let's put up a comment here and see what is the problem with the comments in the previous code. Yeah, there is some problem here itself. Auto wire by type single. Oh, okay, that was the problem. All right, now it should work. So now the thing is that auto wire by type, it injects the bean based on the type of the bean. It identifies the type, and it requires a single matching bean. Also, what it does is that it injects the setter. Okay, injects bean through setter. Now, what if there is no setter at all? What if there's a possibility that we may not have the setters? So let's just remove the setters from this. Set ISBN I will remove, and also the set name I will remove. Save it. Now I just have the constructor. So there is no way for my bean to inject it through the setter. So let's run this and understand that. Now when I run this, the code which was running fine, the code that was actually injecting the bean, now it says that error creating bean book. So bean creation exception is there. The bean creation exception that is happening now here, it says that invalid setter method does the parameter type of the setter matches the return type of the getter. So whenever you are performing auto wire by type, you have to have the setters defined, because auto wire by type is gonna inject the bean through the setters itself. Hope this is completely clear to you. So I'll now be sharing this particular code with you where I'm performing auto wiring now, and the auto wiring is of type what? The auto wiring is of type uh, by type. Okay, so let's add one more file and call it as demo2 auto wire by type. Demo2 auto wire by type. So this is the configuration, and the obviously rest all thing remains the same. My model, library, everything remains the same itself. Only thing is I'm configuring the XML, so I'll be giving you only the XML file. Now the next thing is that let me just change the auto wire to something like auto wire by constructor. Okay, so let's say what is this auto wire constructor. Okay, so there is Autowire by type, there is Autowire by name, Autowire constructor. Now when I'm performing an Autowire constructor, let's save it and first run this and see whether it is valid or not. So first of all, it is valid. So we are getting a book as null now. That means the book is not injected. Let's see what is why is that. So let's go to this book. Do we have yeah, setters were created and all of this is there. That's fine. And oh, wait a minute. Did I auto wire the library or the book? Yeah, auto wiring is fine. Okay, auto wire ISBN, that's fine. Now the auto wiring is not happening. Auto wiring should happen in this case. And the book is being injected. Book is being, yeah, okay. Let's go to the library class and see whether we have the auto wiring enabled here or not. Yes, it is there. So auto wire uh, by constructor injects the constructor, and it has to inject this particular constructor and initialize this. So we do have a book, set book, and everything is there. Okay, so yeah, one more thing is that auto wire constructor, when we are calling the constructor, then at that time the name of the library has to be specified. So I don't have the name of the library being specified in my property, so let's have a constructor that takes only one argument, which is book. So let's have this, and let's not initialize the name because it cannot decide the name on its own, right? So let's save it, and now let's run this. So you will see now the book is being injected, right? And the name of the library we have already specified. The name of the library here, you can see that the spring.xml. Now the name of the library I have specified through a property, and here I was saying that it should auto wire by constructor. So it was looking for a constructor that initializes only the book. That is why in the previous case it was giving us the null value. And when we say autowire constructor, it is same as autowire by type. Now what I will do is I will create one more bean. Okay, let's create two beans now, book and book 2. Now which bean will be injected, right? So auto wire constructor once again will be confused because auto, you can see that no bean wiring. Auto wire constructor also requires the bean should be of single qualifying. It's kind of auto wire by constructor is same as auto wire by type. Only difference is that Autowire by type is going to throw us an exception when there are more than one qualifying bean. Autowire constructor will not throw us an exception because it is safe. And the next point is that Autowire by type always injects the setter, and Autowire constructor injects the constructor. And Autowire by type requires a matching setter. Autowire constructor requires a matching constructor for it. Okay, so let me write that as well. So there is auto wire by constructor, not by, it is just auto wire constructor, auto wire constructor. So now what we have is this injects the bean based on, obviously based on the type of the bean it will inject. And what, let us write it as what it, that also requires a single matching bean. So what we will do is we will simply say that it is same as the auto wire by type, except that it injects the dependency through a setter, through a constructor. Okay, so what we will say is that this is same as by type, but no exception will be thrown if multiple matching beans are available. Okay, but it requires what, requires a constructor to be the same, and always injects the constructor. So hopefully that's clear to you. And now I will share this. This is our auto wire constructor. We can also let our spring container decide whether it is, whether it wants to perform auto wire constructor or by type or whatever it is. That will come in the auto wiring concept later in the session when we have the Java based configuration. Now we spoke about the AutoWire by type, AutoWire default, by type, constructor. Now one more important point is the AutoWire by name. When we have more than one qualifying bean, that is, here you can notice that I have two beans. The AutoWire constructor does not work, AutoWire by type does not work because they all require single matching bean. But AutoWire by name is something which helps us auto wire the things even when there are more than one qualifying bean available. So when we have auto wire by name, what it does is that it searches for the bean name and then injects that. Now what will be injected in this case? In this case, this particular bean, that is ISBN value 50 and my career will be injected. Let's save it and see that first, and then we will see the reason why that happens. Okay, so we should not obviously be running this piece of code. So let's go to the, let's close this. Now we have to run the service, which is book service. Now you notice that it is injecting that ISBN 50. Why is it injecting the ISBN 50? The reason for that is, in the library, if you see, the name of the property is book, right? The name of the property is book, and in the spring.xml the property name for value ISBN 50 is book. So we are performing what? Auto wire by name. So if the name of this book is book 3 and this is book, then this book will be injected. Acha, both the ISBN are 50 50, my career, so whichever is injected, it's the same. So let's call it as my life, and let's call this as 100 or something. Okay, now 100 and my life will be injected because the name of the property and the bean ID is same. So it is matching the name of the property and the bean ID. So let's run this. So you can see that now it is injecting ISBN 100 and name my life. So it checks the property name, and whichever bean ID has the same property name, it is going to inject that. By name auto-wires the bean with the property name, and obviously if not found, it is going to return null. Let's see that if the bean is not found, whether it is going to give us the exception or null. So auto wire by name, what this by name does is injects injects the bean with what? By the property name, based on the property name. Now the next thing is we have to see what if there are no qualifying bean available. So there is book 3 and let's call it as book 2. So when we have book 3 and book 2, there will be no qualifying bean. And obviously, so when for type, if there was multiple qualifying bean or no qualifying bean, at that time that was throwing an exception. This also does not throw any exception. So only it is the by type that can throw the exception. By name or constructor does not throw us an exception. It just injects the null value there. Okay. So I hope this concept is also clear to you. I'll copy this and share this as well. Let's call it as demo for auto wire by name. Auto wire by name. All right. Now let's talk about something called as the scopes of the bean. Now what do we mean by a bean scope, and how do we uh, create the concept of bean scopes? So the bean can be created at the two scopes, or let's first understand how things work in the bean scope, and then we will be talking about what exactly is the scope of the bean. Okay, so here I go, and what I will do is I have this book and library and all that. So let's only talk about the library concept here. And what I would like to do is I'll go to the service and I would like to retrieve that particular bean. Maybe more than one time I want to retrieve the bean, which is something like this. I get this library bean, and I would like to call the same bean again and call it as library 1, and it is actually going to return me the same bean. And if I print library and library 1, it should be the same. System.out.println. Okay, I have library and library 1, so obviously the result of both should be the same. It should be Yeah, both are central library, book and everything is same. Now after retrieving the bean, what I will do is I will try and modify the beans. Let's modify them. After modifying, so what I will modify now, I am going to modify the library 1. So library 1 dot set name of the bean, let's call it as new library. So I'm just changing the name of library 1. And now what we will do is we will see what is the name of library and library 1. Okay, so here we have library dot get name. So library dot get library name should be the same as before, that is central library, and the library 1 dot get name should be changed to the new name that we have given. But let us see what is going to be the result here. So when I get the result, you can see both are what, new library itself. That means what? So if you remember in Java we spoke about something called as copying the reference, that is uh, maintaining the same copy or maintaining the separate copy. So in this case what exactly is happening is that whenever we request a library object from the Spring container, it is returning us the same object. So there are no multiple objects created here. That means whenever we request this library object, so Spring container is giving you this library object. Second time you request, it is going to give you the same. Third time you request, it is giving you the same. So it is not creating separate object for every request that you make. Okay, so this also saves your memory, but there can be limitation as well. So the limitation is if you request it once and you change it, it will be changed for everything. That exact concept is called as the scope of the bean, and the default scope of the bean is the singleton. Whether you write it or not, it is going to be singleton. So I'll define the scope here. Scope is equal to singleton. So this is the default scope of the bean. Let me copy this and share it with you as a singleton bean. So when it is singleton, it means that it maintains the same copy. It does not give you multiple copies. Demofy bean scope singleton. Okay, so this is the singleton bean library, and to test that in the main, the service, we're just calling the library multiple times and trying to modify the things and check whether both will be reflected or only one will be reflected. Once only one is reflected, at that time I copied the wrong one. So let's go to the service. Yeah, so here it is. So let's put that. So when if both are modified, if you change one, that means it is the same memory. If only one is modified, then there are separate copies of it. So what if you want a separate copy? At that time what you have to simply do is that you have to go ahead and change the scope of the bean here. So what will be the scope now? The default scope is singleton itself. Whether you write it or not, it is going to be the same. Now if you change the scope to prototype, yeah, so if you change the scope to the prototype bean, then at that time you will get multiple copies of that bean. And now you can see that I have changed only one library name. So only one library one is changed and the previous library remains as it is. So you can see that after modifying, library one's name I have changed, whereas library's name is not changed. So library dot get name gives me SETI central library, and the library one dot get name gives me new library. Now this proves you that now there are multiple memories, more than one memory is there now. Fine, so hopefully this is again clear to you. So I'm gonna copy everything that I've modified and share it with you. So I have only changed what the scope from from singleton to prototype. Okay, so I think we have discussed many things about the XML based configuration in Spring. From the next session onwards, we will be moving to the Java based configuration, where you will love these concepts that we have discussed. Obviously there are a lot more concepts that we can discuss with the Spring core, but our goal is to achieve more advanced concepts into Spring. And this Spring XML based configuration you will only see in the legacy project. So nowadays people have opted for the Java based configuration, but for the sake of knowledge, you should be at least having this much knowledge about the Spring's XML based configuration and how things work. So in the next session we will be talking about the concepts of, yeah, there are also the concept of the life cycle methods and everything. We will talk about all of that in the Java based configuration itself. Then we will move to our main Spring module, that's gonna be Spring Boot. Hopefully you're enjoying in the series, and if you love the series, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and help my channel grow and motivate me to create more such content. Thank you. See you in the next video.